The Middle Ages were a time of profound medical ingenuity hidden beneath the surface of history. We are about to uncover 25 medieval medical practices that actually worked against disease, methods that saved countless lives with nothing more than herbs, honey, and sharp observation. By the end of this journey, you will possess a new understanding of how our ancestors effectively fought sickness long before modern science. We will explore why a common garden plant could rival today's painkillers and how a simple kitchen ingredient acted as a powerful antiseptic. What do you believe is the most valuable lesson we can learn from the healers of the past? Medical theory in the Middle Ages rested on a foundation built by the ancient Greeks, primarily the concept of the four humors. This was the idea that health depended on a perfect balance of four bodily fluids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. An imbalance was thought to cause disease, which is why treatments often aim to purge or restore these fluids. Yet, while this theory guided many decisions, it was far from the whole story. The true engine of medical progress was relentless, hands-on observation. In monasteries across Europe, monks became the physicians of their age. They meticulously tended gardens filled with medicinal herbs, preserving knowledge from classical texts while carefully noting the real-world effects of each plant on the sick and injured. They were not merely copying old scrolls, they were actively testing and refining ancient recipes. This combination of inherited wisdom and practical experimentation created a fertile ground for discovery. It was within this unique context, blending ancient theory with daily practice, that our first effective medical practice took root and flourished. From those quiet monastery gardens came the first line of defense against common suffering. A healer would select fragrant chamomile flowers and sharp peppermint leaves, not for a meal but for a medicinal brew. Herbal infusions were a cornerstone of medieval medicine, a primary treatment for the ever-present discomfort of digestive ailments. For someone suffering from painful stomach cramps or persistent indigestion, a carefully prepared tea offered genuine relief. Peppermint was renowned for its ability to calm spasms within the gut, while chamomile worked to soothe internal inflammation. This was not random guesswork, it was applied knowledge. Visionary figures like Hildegard of Bingen meticulously documented these uses in her texts, creating systematic guides for healing. She described how an infusion made from ginger root could effectively settle a nauseous stomach, a remedy so powerful it remains in common use centuries later. This practice demonstrates a sophisticated, though pre-scientific, understanding of plant properties. These medieval healers observed, recorded, and validated the effects of their herbal arsenal. Can you sense the comfort such a simple, warm brew might have brought to someone in pain, a tangible kindness in a world without other options? This profound reliance on nature's pharmacy extended far beyond the digestive system, leading to another herbal marvel used to heal the body from the outside in. That same logic of using nature's bounty extended to the treatment of wounds, where a common kitchen staple performed miracles. A surgeon treating a deep gash on a soldier's arm would not reach for a mysterious potion, but for a jar of thick, golden honey. This was not a desperate act, but a standard medical procedure. Medieval physicians, drawing from ancient knowledge, understood that honey could clean a wound and prevent it from turning foul. They would pack the injury with this sweet substance before wrapping it, creating a natural protective barrier. The science behind this, though unknown to them, is now clear to us. Honey contains special enzymes that slowly release tiny amounts of hydrogen peroxide, a powerful antibacterial agent. This process actively fights off germs that cause dangerous infections like gangrene. Modern research confirms what medieval practice proved. Certain types of honey can indeed stop the growth of numerous harmful bacteria. Is it not astonishing that something so simple and sweet could stand as a formidable defense against death from infection? This reliance on sharp observation was not limited to external applications. It also guided how healers learned to read the body's own signals for diagnosis. Even a practice as infamous as bloodletting held a kernel of medical truth. Picture a barber surgeon not as a reckless butcher, but as a focused practitioner. He would use a sharp, clean lancet to make a precise cut over a swollen, inflamed joint, carefully collecting a small amount of blood. For conditions we now understand as hypertension or localized infections, this deliberate act could bring measurable, if temporary, relief. The guiding theory was from the ancient physician Galen, who taught that illness sprang from an imbalance of the body's four humors, in what were called plethoric conditions, where the body was thought to be overloaded with blood. Reducing that volume did ease the physical pressure on strained veins and inflamed tissues. Historical records show its careful application for high fevers and severe inflammation, with practitioners using measured cups to avoid taking too much. While undoubtedly overused with terrible consequences, in specific, controlled circumstances, bloodletting worked on the symptoms it was meant to address. It was a blunt instrument, but it was not born from pure ignorance. It represented an attempt to physically rebalance a system they believed was out of order. This focus on internal balance extended far beyond the surgeon's blade, guiding healers toward a far gentler, more fundamental form of medicine. A feverish patient in the Middle Ages would not be presented with a heavy meal of meat and bread. Instead, a caretaker would bring a simple bowl of clear broth or a cup of cool barley water. This was a deliberate and widespread medical strategy. Healers understood that during a high fever, the body's digestive power was considered weak, and overloading it with rich food was believed to fuel the internal fire of the illness. Their guidance was to fast or consume only the most easily digestible foods and liquids. Barley water provided gentle sustenance and vital hydration, while small amounts of apple cider vinegar mixed with water could help replenish lost fluids. This practice was framed within the language of humoral theory, aiming to cool a body overheated by an excess of blood or yellow bile. Yet beneath that theoretical layer was a bedrock of practical observation. They saw time and again that patients managed with light broths and herbal teas often recovered their strength more reliably than those fed heavy meals. This aligns perfectly with our modern understanding of conserving the body's energy to fight infection. It reveals a holistic instinct in medieval medicine, a recognition that treatment was not just about applying a single cure, but about supporting the entire system through its struggle. When the body's internal battles became external wounds, however, healers turned to a far more invasive skill, one that required a steady hand and a stomach of iron. The steady hand of a medieval surgeon could perform a procedure as daring as it was direct, drilling a small hole into a human skull to save a life. This was trepanation, an ancient practice refined during the Middle Ages to address catastrophic head injuries. When a knight fell in battle or a laborer suffered a crushing blow, the resulting skull fracture could trap blood and fluid, creating immense pressure that would crush the brain from within. A surgeon, using specialized augers and crown saws, would carefully remove a circle of bone, sometimes no larger than a coin. This deliberate opening acted as a pressure valve, allowing the swollen brain tissue to expand outward, preventing fatal damage. Historical accounts from monastic hospitals tell of patients who walked away from injuries that should have been certain death, their survival a silent testament to this brutal yet effective intervention. It was a calculated risk born of necessity, a stark demonstration that these practitioners understood the physical consequences of trauma, even without modern anatomical charts. They possessed the courage to intervene directly in the body's most sacred space. This drive to combat life-threatening crises extended to the management of common, yet equally dangerous, infections, where healers turned to the power of a humble plant. That same humble plant, willow bark, offered another kind of relief, brewed into a bitter tea to quiet the persistent throb of a headache or the deep ache of arthritic joints. Medieval healers, particularly within monastic communities, carefully recorded how a preparation made from the bark of the willow tree could reduce fever and soothe inflamed muscles. They would harvest the bark, often from white willow trees, and prepare a decoction by simmering it in water. A patient suffering from what we would now call rheumatoid arthritis might drink this tea daily, experiencing a noticeable easing of their pain and swelling. The active ingredient, a compound called salicin, worked directly on the body's inflammatory processes. Even more directly, a healer might create a poultice by crushing the moistened bark and applying it directly to a swollen knee or a painful bruise, offering targeted, localized relief. This was not mere superstition. It was the practical application of a natural chemical that, centuries later, would be synthesized to create acetylsalicylic acid, the very foundation of modern aspirin. Isn't it remarkable that a common tree held a secret so powerful it would become a cornerstone of modern medicine? This profound understanding of the natural world extended beyond treating the body itself to managing the very environment in which people lived and fell ill. The air inside a medieval home during an outbreak grew thick with the scent of smoldering sage and juniper. This was not a ritual for pleasant aromas, but a deliberate act of medicine. Fumigation was a widespread practice, a direct response to the prevailing miasma theory, which held that diseases like the plague traveled through corrupt, foul air. Healers would gather bundles of strong-smelling herbs like rosemary, thyme, and lavender, setting them alight in braziers to fill sick rooms with their pungent smoke. They believed this would purge the poisonous miasma, cleansing the very atmosphere of sickness. What they could not see was that they were accidentally creating a form of primitive disinfection. When these specific herbs burn, they release volatile oils and compounds that are antimicrobial. The smoke could, in an enclosed space, reduce the number of airborne pathogens, potentially lowering the risk of infection for those gathered inside. Physicians during the Black Death specifically recommended this practice in their texts, and while it was no cure for the plague, it offered a tangible defense. It improved the quality of the stifling air in a sick room and provided immense psychological comfort, a sense of active defense against an invisible enemy. This instinct to purify extended from the air people breathed directly to the wounds they suffered. How did they address wound care beyond the application of honey? Another powerful antiseptic was waiting in the wine cellar. A soldier's deep gash would often be washed not with water, but with a sharp, stinging stream of wine. This was a standard battlefield procedure, a moment of necessary pain that could mean the difference between recovery and a fatal fever. Medieval surgeons, particularly those accompanying armies on crusade, understood that cleaning a wound was paramount. They would pour cheap, strong wine directly into the injury, flushing out dirt and debris. The logic was simple. They observed that wounds treated this way were less likely to swell, turn red, and develop the foul smell of gangrene. What they could not know was that the alcohol in the wine was acting as a potent antimicrobial agent, killing bacteria on contact. Vinegar, with its high acetic acid content, served a similar purpose. A cloth soaked in vinegar and laid over a cut created an acidic environment where many harmful microbes simply could not survive. Historical texts from military camps detail the use of vinegar-soaked bandages for this very reason. It was a straightforward, brilliantly effective form of sterilization born from desperate necessity and sharp observation. This practice demonstrates that the medieval understanding of hygiene, while framed in different terms, was often grounded in what worked. How did they apply this same innovative thinking to ailments that plagued the lungs and airways? Their answer was found in the soothing power of steam and herbs. A patient struggling to breathe through a chest full of phlegm would lean over a simple clay bowl filled with steaming water, their face tented by a cloth to capture the rising vapor. This was not just a comfort, it was a deliberate medical treatment for respiratory congestion. Healers would infuse the hot water with fragrant herbs like eucalyptus, thyme, or pine needles, creating a potent medicated steam. The warmth and moisture worked to loosen thick mucus trapped in the lungs and sinuses, making it easier to cough up and clear the airways, but the herbs added a powerful therapeutic layer. Plants like thyme contain compounds called thymol, which have natural antimicrobial properties, helping to fight the underlying infection. Mint, with its active ingredient menthol, provided a cooling sensation that soothed irritated throat tissues and further eased breathing. This practice was commonly recommended for persistent coughs, the deep chest rattles of bronchitis, and painful sinus infections. It was a remedy based on clear, observable benefits, a way to provide immediate relief and support the body's own healing processes using nothing more than hot water and common plants from the garden. This gentle, effective approach to internal discomfort had its parallel in the treatment of external skin ailments, where healers turned to the cooling, calming power of another botanical marvel. The soothing coolness of fresh aloe vera gel offered immediate relief for a painful burn or an angry rash. A medieval apothecary would slice open a thick leaf from the plant, scraping out the clear, jelly-like substance inside. This gel was not merely a simple balm, it was a sophisticated preparation used to treat a wide array of skin irritations. They would apply it directly to sunburns, insect bites, or areas of chafed skin, creating a protective, moist layer over the damaged tissue. Influential Arabic physicians like Al-Razi wrote extensively about aloe's virtues, and this knowledge traveled into European medical practice. These texts described how the plant's natural properties could reduce swelling, ease pain, and seemingly speed the growth of new skin. We now understand that aloe contains compounds like polysaccharides and glycoproteins, which are powerfully anti-inflammatory and stimulate the body's own repair mechanisms. It provided a twofold action, cooling the heat of inflammation while actively encouraging the wound to close. Isn't it fascinating that a remedy documented 1,000 years ago is still a trusted first aid staple in modern medicine cabinets? This mastery of botanical solutions for external ailments was mirrored by an equally sophisticated use of spices for problems within the body, particularly the discomforts of digestion. A medieval traveler would keep a small pouch of ginger root close at hand, ready to chew a piece whenever the sway of a ship or the jostle of a cart threatened to unsettle their stomach. This was standard practice for managing nausea and digestive upset, a remedy so trusted it was a staple in every apothecary's inventory. Herbalists meticulously prepared ginger in multiple forms, brewing it into a warming tea for internal cramps, grinding it into a fine powder to be mixed with honey, or preserving it in sugar to create a soothing, candied treat. Manuscripts from monastic pharmacies detail its use for everything from morning sickness to the discomfort of overindulgence, noting its reliable ability to settle the stomach and restore a patient's appetite. They observed that it worked without the draining side effects of stronger purgatives, offering gentle, effective relief. modern science now confirms what these healers documented centuries ago. Ginger contains active compounds like gingerols that directly calm the digestive tract and reduce signals of nausea in the brain. It is a perfect example of an ancient observation being validated by contemporary research. So how did medieval practitioners manage when the pain was not a queasy stomach, but something far more acute, like the agony of a tooth extraction or the searing pain of a cauterized wound? Their answer lay in a potent and remarkably effective numbing agent derived from nature. For a patient enduring the searing pain of an amputation or the relentless agony of a terminal illness, a medieval physician offered a single, potent solution. He would administer a few drops of a dark, bitter liquid, a tincture made from the extracted sap of the opium poppy. This was not a reckless act, but a calculated and crucial use of one of history's most powerful painkillers. Known as laudanum or simply poppy syrup, this preparation was the only reliable way to render severe suffering bearable in a world without anesthetic gases or synthetic drugs. Surgeons relied on it to sedate patients just enough to withstand the brutal necessities of their craft, from setting compound fractures to removing arrowheads. The risks were well understood even then. Medical texts warned of the profound sleep it could induce and the dependency it could create if used without strict discipline. Yet for someone crushed by pain, this small dose represented a profound mercy, a temporary escape that allowed the body's own healing processes to begin. It demonstrates a starkly pragmatic side of medieval medicine, an acceptance that sometimes the cure involved managing the symptom of pain itself, even with a dangerous and unpredictable ally. How did these same healers approach the internal fire of a raging fever when the body itself seemed to turn against its host? A simmering pot of dark elderberries filled a medieval kitchen with a rich, sweet scent each winter. This was not a dessert but a carefully prepared medicinal syrup, a family's primary defense against the relentless coughs and fevers of the cold season. Healers prized the elderberry for its remarkable ability to shorten the misery of respiratory ailments. They would brew the berries into a thick, potent tonic, often mixing it with honey to soothe sore throats and suppress stubborn coughs. Their detailed observations noted that those who took this syrup seemed to recover from their chills and congestion more quickly than those who did not. We now understand that elderberries are packed with antioxidants and natural compounds called flavonoids, which can inhibit a virus's ability to replicate inside the body. This directly supports the immune system's fight, reducing both the severity and the duration of an illness. It is a powerful example of folk wisdom, passed from one generation to the next, that modern science has since confirmed. This botanical defense was a gentle way to support the body's own healing power, but for more aggressive, life-threatening infections that would today require antibiotics, medieval medicine had to find a far more direct and surprising ally. Their solution was not found in a garden but in the earth itself. A gleaming silver coin pressed into the weeping flesh of a battle wound was not an act of superstition, but a calculated defense against the invisible threat of gangrene. Medieval healers made a remarkable discovery that silver possessed a mysterious power to keep wounds clean. They would sometimes grind the metal into a fine powder, dusting it over stubborn ulcers and severe burns. Others would place a silver coin directly on an injury before wrapping it, or even use thin silver wire to stitch deep surgical incisions shut. These methods were born from sharp observation, as practitioners noticed that wounds treated with silver were far less likely to fester and turn foul. They were unknowingly harnessing the power of silver ions, tiny charged particles that slowly leach from the metal surface. These ions are toxic to a wide range of bacteria, disrupting their cellular processes and preventing them from multiplying. This practice, known as metallotherapy, was documented in texts that advised using silver to purify drinking water on long journeys, showing a broad understanding of its preservative qualities. Isn't it remarkable that a precious metal became a tool for life-saving hygiene? This innovative use of a simple element foreshadowed our own modern medical applications, where silver coatings are used on everything from bandages to surgical implants to prevent infection. Yet, while they found ways to fight physical decay, medieval healers also turned their attention to the ailments of the mind, developing surprisingly gentle practices to soothe a troubled spirit. The calming scent of lavender offered a gentle refuge from the anxieties of medieval life. A person troubled by sleepless nights might tuck small linen sachets filled with the dried purple flowers beneath their pillow, creating a personal cloud of tranquil fragrance. This was medicine for the mind, a widely practiced form of aromatic therapy. Herbalists in monastic infirmaries would distill the plant into a potent oil, adding it to bath water to soothe frayed nerves, or recommending that patients simply inhale its scent directly from a cloth to calm a racing heart. Their meticulous records, like those from the famous infirmary at the Abbey of St. Gall, explicitly noted lavender's sedative qualities, prescribing it for insomnia, tension, headaches, and a general sense of unease. The psychological comfort it provided was profound, a natural balm for the stresses of a world filled with uncertainty and hardship. Modern research has since identified linalool and linaloyl acetate as the primary active compounds in lavender, which interact with the brain's neurotransmitter systems to promote relaxation and reduce anxiety. This medieval practice demonstrates a sophisticated understanding that healing sometimes required addressing the state of the mind, not just the body. For more persistent and debilitating chronic conditions, however, healers turned to a regimen that demanded patience and discipline over many months. The sharp sting of a nettle plant seemed like the last thing you would want on your aching joints, but medieval healers saw past the initial pain. For someone suffering from the deep, persistent ache of arthritis or the fiery agony of gout, a poultice made from crushed nettle leaves offered surprising relief. They would gather the fresh leaves, sometimes lightly steaming them to reduce their sting, and apply the green paste directly to swollen knees or stiff fingers. This was not a random act of desperation. It was a calculated application of a known anti-inflammatory agent. Historical texts describe how patients would willingly endure the plant's brief, prickling sensation for the long-term benefit of reduced swelling and improved mobility. Others brewed the dried leaves into a strong, earthy tea, consuming it to soothe inflammation from within. Monastic records note its use for rheumatism, with healers observing that regular use seemed to ease the chronic stiffness that plagued their older patients. We now know that nettle contains compounds that inhibit the body's production of inflammatory chemicals, effectively calming the immune system's overreaction in conditions like osteoarthritis. Isn't it striking that a common weed, often dismissed as a nuisance, was harnessed as a precise tool against chronic pain? This practice reflects a deep, sustainable approach to managing long-term ailments with the resources nature provided. But this same focus on gentle, internal balance extended to the very core of daily well-being, the digestive system. A medieval meal was often incomplete without a portion of tangy sauerkraut or a mug of hearty ale, yet this was more than simple sustenance. These fermented foods were an unwitting prescription for gut health, a daily practice that maintained digestive balance in a world without scientific labels for probiotics. People observed that those who regularly consumed these sour, cultured foods suffered less from stomach cramps and general malaise. A family might rely on their barrel of pickled cabbage through the winter months, not just for preservation, but because it seemed to stave off the lethargy and digestive troubles that came with a monotonous diet. In Eastern Europe, fermented dairy like kefir was a common remedy given to children and the infirm, used to treat episodes of diarrhea and to restore strength after illness. Though they spoke in terms of balancing the body's humors or settling the stomach, they were effectively introducing beneficial bacteria into their digestive systems. These microbes helped to crowd out harmful pathogens, improved the absorption of nutrients from other foods, and strengthened the body's overall resilience. This intuitive dietary strategy aligns perfectly with our modern understanding of the microbiome, revealing how a daily ritual of fermentation served as a powerful, preventative form of medicine. But how did medieval healers address ailments that manifested not within the body but directly upon the skin? Their solution involved a thorough and surprisingly effective cleansing ritual. The pungent, unmistakable scent of rotten eggs hung in the air around natural sulfur springs, a smell that signaled not danger, but profound relief for those suffering from agonizing skin conditions. A medieval person with the thick, scaly plaques of psoriasis or the raw, weeping patches of eczema would immerse themselves in these mineral-rich waters, seeking a cure where medicine had failed. They did not understand the chemistry, but their own eyes confirmed the results. The sulfur in the water acted as a powerful keratolytic agent, gently breaking down the tough, dead layers of skin that characterized these chronic diseases, while its inherent antifungal and antibacterial properties cleansed the skin of secondary infections that could worsen the misery. Across Europe, from the baths of Bath in England to the hot springs of Aachen in Germany, entire communities grew around these therapeutic sites. Spas and bathhouses became bustling centers of treatment, where patients would soak for hours, their persistent itching finally subsiding and their inflamed rashes visibly calming after just a few sessions. Historical travel logs and medical diaries from the period are filled with accounts of individuals whose lifelong skin afflictions dramatically improved after a season of regular visits. This was a form of medicine that leveraged the environment itself, a precursor to the modern practice of balneotherapy that still uses mineral baths for healing today. It stands as a powerful testament to the medieval ability to recognize and harness the therapeutic potential of the natural world, even without knowing the precise science behind it. How did they apply this same principle of using the environment for healing when the affliction was not on the skin, but deep within the lungs? A dense pine forest offered more than just timber, it was a living pharmacy for the lungs. Medieval healers would gather fresh green needles from the white pine tree. Their sharp, clean scent a promise of relief. They would chop the needles and steep them in hot water to create a potent, resinous tea for a patient wheezing with bronchitis or struggling with a deep, chesty cough. This pine needle infusion was a targeted therapy. The brew provided a substantial dose of vitamin C, bolstering the body's weakened defenses, while its natural expectorant properties worked to thin and loosen the stubborn phlegm clinging to the bronchial passages. Herbalists often sweetened the intensely sharp flavor with honey, which itself soothed the raw throat and added its own antimicrobial layer to the treatment. They meticulously recorded how patients who drank this tea would experience productive coughing fits that effectively cleared their airways, followed by a noticeable reduction in chest tightness and inflammation. This was not a guess, it was a repeatable outcome observed in countless sick rooms. It demonstrates a precise understanding of which local plant could produce a specific, desired physical effect on the respiratory system. This mastery of botanical solutions for internal ailments was matched by an equally ingenious approach to external healing, one that ventured beyond the plant kingdom. When a wound refused to close, turning foul and weepy, a medieval healer might reach for an unexpected ally from the farmyard. They would carefully clean the injury and then pack it with clean honey. But this time they would seal it not with a simple cloth, but with a raw piece of fresh animal flesh, often from a chicken or a lamb. This practice, known as meat dressing, seems bizarre to modern sensibilities, yet it was grounded in a stark, practical logic. The raw meat acted as a protective, moist barrier, shielding the vulnerable tissue from the dirty, germ-filled air. More importantly, as the meat slowly broke down on the wound, it released nutrient-rich fluids that appeared to promote the growth of fresh, pink granulation tissue, the foundation for new skin. Historical surgical texts describe its use for severe ulcers and deep puncture wounds that conventional poultices could not heal. While they had no concept of the growth factors and enzymes present in the raw tissue, they could plainly see that this method often saved a limb from amputation when all other options had failed. It was a brutal, last-ditch effort that occasionally yielded a miracle, proving that medieval medicine was willing to use every tool at its disposal, no matter how unorthodox it seemed. The clear, viscous layer of a raw egg white provided immediate relief for the searing pain of a kitchen burn. A medieval cook or housewife would crack an egg, carefully separate the white from the yolk, and gently paint the liquid directly onto the red, throbbing skin. This was not a folk superstition, but a practical and effective first aid treatment for minor scalds and burns. The egg white swiftly dried into a flexible, transparent film, creating a natural, sterile bandage that sealed the wound from the dirty, germ-laden air. This barrier did more than just protect, it actively soothed the injury. The initial application delivered a cooling sensation that countered the burn's heat, while the protein-rich layer helped maintain crucial moisture in the damaged tissue, which in turn reduced the severity of blistering and promoted smoother healing. Common household manuals from the era explicitly recommended this very practice for accidents involving hot water, cooking fats, or embers from the hearth. It stands as a perfect example of medieval resourcefulness, using an item available in every kitchen to create an immediate, hygienic, and therapeutic response to a common injury. This clever use of everyday materials to solve medical problems extended even to the most uncomfortable of internal ailments, the unwelcome presence of intestinal parasites. A bitter tea made from the silvery leaves of wormwood offered a drastic cure for a hidden torment. For a patient suffering the gnawing pains of a parasitic worm infestation, this was the only remedy strong enough to attack the problem at its source. Medieval healers would brew the intensely bitter herb into a potent tea, administering it in careful, measured doses to children and adults alike. They documented its reliable power to expel roundworms and tapeworms, creatures that caused debilitating abdominal cramps, severe malnutrition, and a relentless hunger that food could not satisfy. The active compound, santonin, is a powerful anthelmintic, a substance that paralyzes the parasites, allowing the body to expel them naturally. This was a treatment that balanced on a knife's edge, as wormwood itself is toxic in large quantities. Apothecaries and wise women understood this delicate balance, using just enough of the herb to purge the unwelcome guests without poisoning the host. It was a targeted, potent solution to a grotesquely common problem in an age where sanitation was primitive and such infestations were a fact of life. This practice reveals a willingness to use nature's most powerful and dangerous tools with precision. When the body's temperature soared with fever, however, healers turned to a far gentler, almost instinctual method to restore balance, one that required no herbs at all. A cool, damp cloth pressed against a fevered brow was a universal gesture of care in the medieval sickroom. This was not a mere comfort, but a deliberate therapeutic act, a simple physical method to combat the internal fire of a high temperature. Healers understood that the body could burn itself out if a fever raged unchecked. By applying cool compresses to the forehead, the wrists, and the back of the neck, they were promoting the body's own ability to lose heat through the skin surface. This practice was recommended for all manner of febrile illnesses, from common childhood fevers to the terrifying sweats of plague, and it was almost always paired with the crucial advice of rest and ample fluids. The act itself was often refined, with cloths soaked in herbal infusions like rosewater or vinegar water. Rosewater provided a gentle, soothing coolness and a calming scent, while vinegar, with its evaporative properties, could enhance the cooling sensation on the skin. This direct, non-invasive approach to symptom management reveals a profound intuition about the body's needs during sickness. It conserved the patient's energy for the internal fight, avoiding the harsh interference of stronger remedies. We still reach for a cool cloth today because the fundamental principle is sound, a testament to the enduring power of gentle, supportive care. This thoughtful approach to the body's ailments extended even to the smallest details of daily life, such as the persistent challenge of maintaining a healthy smile. How did medieval people address the agonizing problem of a decaying tooth? A medieval apothecary's wooden cabinet held a small, precious vial of clove oil, a direct answer to the excruciating torment of a toothache. For a person suffering the relentless, throbbing pain of a deep cavity, a single drop of this potent oil applied directly to the tooth and gum offered near instantaneous relief. The sharp, spicy scent signaled the onset of numbness, a welcome respite from agony in an age before dental anesthesia. This was not a mere distraction, it was targeted chemical intervention. The active compound in cloves, eugenol, is both a powerful natural anesthetic and a potent antiseptic. It works by blocking the nerve signals that carry pain, effectively silencing the tooth's scream, while its antimicrobial properties help fight the bacterial infection at the root of the problem. Apothecaries prepared it as a simple infused oil or mixed it with other soothing herbs to create a paste that could be packed directly into a decaying cavity. Historical texts on surgery and household medicine consistently list clove oil as the primary remedy for dental pain, a testament to its reliable and widespread use. It was a quick, accessible solution that demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of how to harness a plant's specific chemical properties for precise, localized pain control. This clever use of a natural anesthetic reveals a constant search for ways to bolster the body's defenses from within. How did medieval people unknowingly support their overall immunity with a daily, vitamin-rich practice? A ship's cook in the North Atlantic would stir a thick, ruby-red syrup into the daily ration of water, its tart sweetness a stark contrast to the bland hardtack and salted meat. This was rose hip syrup, a sailor's secret weapon against the creeping horror of scurvy. On voyages that lasted for months, the first signs of the disease were unmistakable: bleeding gums, loosening teeth, and a profound weakness that made even simple tasks a struggle. Healers and ship's masters had long observed that a daily dose of this syrup, made from the ripe fruit of wild dog roses, seemed to keep these terrible symptoms at bay. They would gather the bright red hips after the first frost when they were at their sweetest and simmer them for hours to extract their vital essence, straining the pulp and boiling the liquid down with honey to create a preserving tonic. They did not call it vitamin C, but they knew its power. They saw that the men who consumed it regularly maintained their strength and their healthy gums, while those who went without would slowly fall to the ravages of the deficiency. This was a brilliant, empirical solution to a devastating nutritional problem, a preventative medicine born entirely from observation and practical need. Modern analysis reveals just how potent this simple syrup was, with rose hips containing up to 20 times more vitamin C by weight than a common orange. It stands as a profound example of how a targeted dietary intervention, developed through trial and error, could successfully combat a complex disease centuries before its biochemical cause was ever identified. This focus on fortifying the body from within naturally extended to the realm of the mind, where medieval healers sought ways to sharpen thought and memory. A scholar in a candlelit scriptorium would often wear a simple garland of rosemary, its sharp, pine-like fragrance rising with every movement of his head as he copied ancient texts. This was not a decorative choice but a deliberate cognitive strategy. Medieval herbalists firmly believed that rosemary possessed the power to strengthen memory and sharpen concentration, making it the essential tool for any student, scribe, or philosopher engaged in long hours of mental labor. They prepared it in multiple forms, from infusing the leaves in wine to create a stimulating tonic, to distilling its essence into an oil that could be rubbed onto the temples to ward off mental fatigue. This belief was so entrenched in the culture that it even found its way into the works of Shakespeare, where Ophelia explicitly declares, "There's rosemary, that's for remembrance." They were harnessing what we now understand as aromatherapy, the practice of using scent to influence brain function. Modern studies have begun to validate this ancient intuition, suggesting that the primary aromatic compound in rosemary, called cineole, can indeed improve aspects of cognitive performance. This compound may facilitate the action of key neurotransmitters in the brain, those chemical messengers essential for attention, memory formation, and problem solving. It provided a natural, accessible way to support the mind's performance in a world that demanded immense feats of memory and learning without any modern stimulants. This final practice perfectly illustrates the holistic scope of medieval medicine, a system that sought to heal and strengthen every part of the human experience, from the body's deepest wounds to the mind's most fleeting thoughts. These 25 practices reveal a medical world far more nuanced than we often assume. It was not an era defined solely by superstition, but one grounded in relentless observation and practical problem solving. Medieval healers possessed no magic bullets, yet they meticulously documented which herbs calmed a spasm, which poultices reduced swelling, and which dietary changes supported recovery. Their greatest strength was a holistic vision of health, one that seamlessly wove together the healing properties of plants, the restorative power of simple foods, and the strategic use of physical procedures. They understood intuitively that treatment was not just about attacking a disease, but about nurturing the entire body's capacity to heal itself. This preventative mindset, focusing on balance and daily well-being, feels remarkably modern. When we use a honey-based bandage on a cut or sip ginger tea for an upset stomach, we are participating in a living legacy that stretches back 1,000 years. The true lesson here is not about rediscovering forgotten cures, but about recognizing the profound ingenuity born from sheer necessity. These healers had limited tools, but they used them with creativity and courage, laying down a foundation of empirical knowledge upon which modern medicine would eventually be built. Their story is a powerful reminder that human wisdom, even in the most challenging of circumstances, always finds a way to tend the light. Our journey through these 25 medieval practices reveals a world where healing was an art of deep observation and resourceful innovation. We have walked through monastery gardens and battlefield infirmaries, witnessing how honey sealed wounds, willow bark silenced pain, and fermented foods nurtured the gut. These were not random acts of desperation, but carefully documented strategies that saved lives and eased suffering for centuries. The true sophistication of medieval medicine lies in its holistic vision, a system that seamlessly connected the antiseptic power of wine with the calming scent of lavender, understanding that health involved both the body and the spirit. This legacy challenges the outdated notion of the Dark Ages as a time of pure superstition, replacing it with a far richer story of empirical discovery. Each remedy we have explored stands as a testament to human ingenuity, a creative response to the universal challenges of pain, infection, and disease. How might these historical insights, born from necessity and careful observation, inform our own approaches to wellness today? The past holds a quiet conversation with the present, offering timeless lessons in using nature's bounty with respect and precision. I would love to hear which of these medieval successes surprised you the most. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the wisdom of the past, subscribe for more explorations where history comes alive. Thank you for